Welcome to the book launch of Unheard Whispers by Dianne Braley. Now, we are here today to discuss a very interesting collection of poems. Before that, I'd like to introduce you to our poet. She is an author from Boston, Massachusetts, and she's been writing since she was a child. Still later, after becoming a nurse and working privately for a Pulitzer Prize winning author, who became a very close friend and motivator on Martha's Vineyard, she became inspired to write more and did so ferociously. So now let us begin by inviting her over for this event.
Hi.
Hi, finally,
What?
good to see
Sorry.
you. Oh, no, no, absolutely great. Excellent. So, let's begin the event by first discussing what made you write this book, this collection, this anthology of poems that came out of you. What is the journey behind this book, which you, if you might share? Yes, this is the book.
Yeah.
So,
So,
diving right into it.
so I'll say hi, everyone. I'm Dianne C. Braley. That's where you can find me everywhere. And my book, I'm so excited. Unheard Whispers, my poetry book, as we know, is out now. But I'm from a little bit north of Boston. I grew up in the city, and I grew up in an alcoholic home. So my book, although it's pretty dark, is a collection of poems about growing up in an alcoholic home. And it's written primarily in the voice of a child, so it's a kind of unique, perspective. And the great thing about it is, as I know you know, a part of the proceeds is going to a charity here where I live in Massachusetts, um, the Robert F. Kennedy Community Alliance, and they help a ton of kids and families affected by addiction. So I'm really excited about that.
Excellent, excellent. And your book has also been doing really well for our audience to know. Around more than 100 copies of your books have been sold so far and counting, which is,
Yay!
for a poetry book, it's actually a milestone. And there are lots and lots of more milestones to achieve. I'm very sure that we'll get there.
Well, it's such an important cause, and I've been working really hard to promote it, and it'll be, being a nurse, I've seen so many people affected by addiction. I've been personally affected by addiction, and there's so much support primarily on addicts, which is so needed, but we don't really focus on children. And children of addicts have a tendency to possibly be future addicts and or people of dysfunction. So anything we can help to get, like, have them, my book is called Unheard Whispers because I feel like, growing up in that environment, we're not really heard. We don't know what's going on. It's scary. A lot of kids think it's them, and it's not. And it's really nice. I'm hoping the RFK Alliance may actually use the book to help the kids for therapeutic purposes. I'm not sure yet, but if they can, even younger kids or adults can read this and just, know that they're not alone and their feelings are similar to others, that I'd be ecstatic.
Yes, we have one person who has put in a comment, and he is also one of our authors. As of August, I will be 4 years sober. That's
Yay!
interesting.
Good for
Interesting.
you. That's amazing.
So,
and I actually think too, I have a lot of friends that are doctors, and I have a lot of people that are addicts that are reading this, and I think it would be really helpful for people who suffer from addiction and who have children or have loved ones. It's a known fact that one person that suffers from addiction affects at least 6 people. So, all of their loved ones are greatly affected. So I think it would be helpful even reading this it might hurt a bit, but to understand maybe where others are coming from too, because it's a disease that affects everybody, not just the person abusing the substance.
I understand. And it's really, really sad that it's still in happening and it's not going down. The analytics are not going down anywhere. They're still
No,
stable or growing.
it's increasing, and
So,
alcohol consumption is greatly increased. And I'm not preaching people not to enjoy themselves or anything, like that. I'm just preaching. My passion is for kids affected by people who are really suffering from addiction, and it's affecting their kids or the kids in their lives and their families. But this book is about, the children, and how I grew up, and it was, it affects your whole life, and you carry a lot of anxiety, shame. There's a lot of stress, safety issues, things like that. And I don't sit there and cry. I don't think at a certain age, I'm 46, I'm not going to blame my parents for my life anymore. Or, you go through a period of that, but we all have choices. And, I have luckily learned and moved past that. But, when you're a kid, whatever you're going through really affects you, and addiction's a real, it's so out there in the public, of course now, but it's still with the families and being a kid. It's a shameful secret that the kids keep, and they don't understand, and it's not talked about a lot in a lot of homes. And so that's really hard.
it is, it is. I am able to relate with you. Trust me. It's really hard.
So thank you.
But
I'm so excited that we've partnered, and this book can help some kids and families, and even just get more awareness, to
that's the idea because people need to understand people who go through such hard times in their life. And then this is the only way people will be able to understand. Otherwise, is busy in their own lives. They don't care about what others are going through. And that's the hard part. The people have to, at some point, care about what others are going through and do something about it.
Well, that's the great thing about poetry. And I think poetry's always, I started writing poetry, nursing and writing is so vastly different, but I started writing as a kid, and someone gave me a journal, and I just, would write in my journal that Dear Diary kind of thing. And I didn't really like that it was so formal how to write in that style. And I love music. I've always been, very musically inclined. And I started writing sort of lyrically. And that really is poetry. And that helped me get my feelings out more on paper. And even though I have a novel coming out now. I'm going to plug my novel. The Silence and the Sound, my women's fiction novel, is coming out in August. But that is so hard. Writing a book and writing fiction is so challenging that I actually wrote this collection in the interim of writing, because poetry really it lets you just get all your emotions out, and it's kind of more of an instant gratification. And when it's done, I just feel like such a release. So I ended up making this creating this collection in the interim of writing my book, and I'm back in school for creative writing, nursing to creative writing. And my professor said, I really like these poems, you should try to get them published. So I did.
Excellent. Excellent. So, what do you hope people would take away from reading your work? Is it just the connect between you and what people go through, or is there anything more to it? And
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I want anyone who's been affected by, and it doesn't even have to be addiction. I think even reading from how you think as a child, and we've all gone through things. It doesn't necessarily have to be addiction for you to appreciate it. And it's a darker subject, but I think sometimes connecting to, I listened to a great speaker, and how I stopped writing for a while and I became a nurse and all of that. I grew up very blue collar, and writing isn't something like that really. Um, and maybe people did. There's not a lot of well-known writers from where I'm from, north of Boston, but it's very blue collar. And when I stopped writing, I became a nurse, and I always just needed this creative outlet, and I just felt like something just didn't feel right. And then, as you said in the beginning, I became a nurse on Martha's Vineyard, which I kind of ran away to, which is a beautiful place. And he was a famous author, Pulitzer Prize winner, and he became my motivator. I just got so inspired by that artistic life that I started writing again. And I had this story and my poems, I started writing and just feeling it again. And but anyway, sorry, I just got lost. I lost track. But a great speaker said to me, I heard him talk, and he said, if you really want to find out what your passion is, really look back to your childhood. Like you'll get a lot of answers if you look back to who you are from before this kind of world tainted you. And I've always wanted to write. I've always been a writer. And I grew up in an alcoholic home, which is, I got pretty mad about that at first. I said, God, I know a lot about alcoholism. And so let me combine. Well, maybe I'll start writing again, and I'll write about alcoholism,
wow.
which made sense.
Excellent. So, except this, we would like to share with our audience that this book is available on our website, Poet's Choice, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and lots of other book-selling websites, generally opted for by people looking for books. And this specifically has a social cause associated with it. So we do urge people to invest in it and support the cause more so that others do not get influenced or go through the same what our author has been through, and she's been courageous enough to express it
Thank
boldly.
you.
And that's not something which everyone is able to do, I must admit.
No.
It's very difficult. It's a feat in itself to be able to come out and say this. That I personally have heard of some stories of my own family where things have really gone bad when people have been alcoholics in the house.
Yeah.
The livelihood really spoils the entire future of the house. It does not go well for anybody.
No. It affects everybody. And, we put, as I said, we put a lot of funding to addicts, which is needed for sure. And we just don't focus on the children who are our future. That they're actually more where we can help prevent future addiction, and with just some education, just even some education and knowledge, which the Robert F. Kennedy Community Alliance does, and it's a start. But just my book, I'd appreciate anybody promoting this and kind of spreading the word, because it's helping an important cause. And I would so appreciate it.
With this, I think let us put across a thanking note to all those who have attended this event today.
I didn't hear. I'm sorry. Did you say that? Did you ask me? I'm sorry.
I'd just like to thank a number of people here.
Oh.
Firstly, the people who have attended our event today. Then, of course, Robert F. Kennedy Community Alliance for having supporting this and promoting this in some form or the other. Then to Instagram for having us connect to each other and discuss
Yes.
this wonderful cause and book. And of course, to you, because without you, this event is not possible.
And thank you to you too, because I just kind of put it out on a whim on Submittable, and you picked it up and believed in the book. So I appreciate that.
I am very choosy on submittable when it comes to single author manuscripts. I must stress on that. I have 1 in 10 books that gets chosen for publication. So I'm glad that I was able to select and choose this particular
Me too.
genre.
Me too. And if you guys want to follow me, my Dianne with 2 N's, DIANNEC Braley, BRALEY. .com is my website, and there's a blog every other week about different things and whatever's coming up and events about this book. There should be a couple of events and my next book, so my novel, and that would be great. And subscribe to my newsletter, please. I won't bombard you, I swear. I swear.
Okay. With that, I say namaste and thank you to everybody and
Thank
have a
you.
great day ahead. Evening over here. So great evening over here to all who are from India. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.